Okay, good afternoon and welcome everyone. My name is William Borrell from the Caravan Youth and Social Circus Network, and we're here today in collaboration with Circus Talk, the online platform for circus professionals, a marketplace and an essential tool for circus industry in general around the world. And we're collaborating today with our international participants here to discuss circus in the context of immigration. And so I would like to now hand over to our panelists who are going to give a brief description of themselves. So Ilaria, if you'd like to start.
Hi everyone, and thank you, Will. It's a pleasure to be here and participate in this panel. My name is Ilaria Bessone, and I work for Altro Circo, which is an organization, a network in Italy, gathering different schools and organizations working with social circus all over Italy. And within Altro Circo, I specifically I'm in charge for international relations and for the research area.
Thank you. Okay, if I could pass over to the Clowns Without Borders.
Hello everybody, my name is Serena. I'm an Italian artist living in Belgium since 10 years. And I'm here as a coordinator of Clown Without Borders Belgium, which have activities linked with the social circus in Belgium and all over the world, and which is connected with the network Clown Without Borders International. And there are works in the apartment upper me, so sorry for the sounds.
No problem. Thanks, Serena. Okay, and finally, let me pass to Diana.
Hi, everyone. My name is Diana. I'm from Uppsala Circus. It's a social and cultural project from St. Petersburg, but we are now migrating ourselves, and part of the team is in Germany. And I'm responsible for the fundraising activities and now also for all the operational issues and management in Germany as well. I'm very happy to be here and to talk about our experience.
Amazing. Thank you all. We're so happy that you could join us all here today in this online context. A little bit about myself. So I am an artist from the United Kingdom. I worked as a juggler for many years in Scotland and in Newcastle in the north. And for the last 2 years, I've been working as the project and communications officer at Caravan Circus. And Caravan is a network of youth and social circuses around the world, predominantly in Europe, founded in 2008, with the objective to use circus as a tool for social inclusion, for empowerment, and Uppsala Circus and Altro Circo, our members here, are part of the network and have been for some time. And actually, I've toured with the Clowns Without Borders to Cyprus at the end of last year, and my passion really lies in this element of circus as a social tool for engagement and for working with marginalized groups and creating a better world for us all. And so I think it's really important that we look at circus as a tool for facilitating migratory issues with refugees, with newly arrived migrants in new contexts, which is why I'd like to first hand over to you, Ilaria, who's going to present a project that we've worked on in collaboration with some other members of the Caravan Network over the last 3 years, called Circus as an Intercultural Encounter, which is a research project, but I won't go into any more details. I'll let Ilaria carry on from there.
So I'll share my screen. Okay. You see this presentation? Do you see my screen? Okay. So circus as an intercultural encounter is, as Will was saying, is a project that started in 2019, and it was funded by the Erasmus Plus program of the European Union. And it was designed and managed by a partnership of 6 circus schools: Saltimbank in Luxembourg, Scala Fuscabo in Slovenia, Circus Planet in Belgium, the Palestinian Circus School in Palestine, Altro Circo in Italy, and Circus Magenta in Finland. And then Caravan was, of course, part of the network, of the partnership, sorry. And UCD, University College Dublin, a university based in Dublin, Ireland. So why did we start this project? It came from a conversation that started in already in 2015, actually, when the media and governments around Europe started to talk about a so-called refugee crisis, and many public responses to this issue were released, and specifically in Europe, the response to the growing number of forcibly displaced population was the creation of funding possibilities to integrate or to include this newly arrived population in the local societies. So within the circus community, many projects started in many different countries in Europe, responding to the idea that it was possible to support through circus workshops these population, and to use these funding schemes to start circus projects. So many projects started in many different contexts, but some questions started to circulate within the circus community, mainly relating to what does it mean to offer circus workshops to people whose needs are somewhere else. Usually residency permits, accommodation, income, work permits. So how does circus relate to these needs? And then how can we, as an artistic and as a recreational practice community, relate to broader political issues and reflections? And actually, within Altro Circo, we had started reflecting on these questions already in 2017, when we organized a conference, Altra Risorsa. And this conference was followed by an international meeting facilitated by Cirque du Monde, where we already had people working with refugee or asylum seekers all over the world, circus professionals, interrogating themselves. So, and these questions, so what is the place of circus in a global and globalized world? And how can we act within this, taking into account these broader political issues? So it was a conversation that had been going on for many years. And because of this need, we felt of questioning, reflecting, exploring. We thought that all these actions required research. So that is why Circus's Intercultural Encounter was designed as a research project mainly. The idea was to train a field researcher in each of the 6 circus schools involved, and that this person, they were either participants in circus projects or circus trainers. They would be trained in research techniques, mainly qualitative ethnographic methods, and then go back to their field to conduct, to observe, to analyze their project. And then the idea was to create a handbook where all these data and the analysis would be gathered, and as well as creating a pilot training. So a training focusing specific on intercultural skills, both of trainers and of circus organizations in general. So the first step was to design and meet for a research methodology training. This was organized by UCD. That's why we had a university partner, because we wanted to really strengthen this link with academia and with research practices. So strengthen the link between circus practice and research practice. And so this training was designed by Professor Alice Feldman together with an artist, Rajinder Singh. And we started from the idea that circus trainers must have a deep sense of self-reflection, awareness, and sensitivity around cultural differences arising through performative acts. So the training strategy was based on engaging the researchers' embodied knowledge, experiences, and practice of circus work. And it combined this more embodied practice and exercises and performative work, which was mainly inspired by Borrell's work and the Theatre of the Oppressed, with more with research techniques such as journaling, drawing, interviewing, and collective discussion. So during this training, as well as going through all these methods and experiencing these methods on ourselves in our group, we came up with a research question. So something that we would look at once we go back each one of us to their context. And the research question was, what skills are necessary for circus encounters in a world of diversity and complexity? Skills, meaning both teaching, skills of teaching and facilitating, so the area of pedagogy, but then also skills to structure and manage circus organizations, as we will see later. After the training, we went back to our circus schools and projects, and each field researcher started to analyze, observe, gather, and generate data together with the participants of the projects. The contexts were very different. So there were youth circus projects in Helsinki, Ljubljana, and Ghent. A project focusing mainly on aerials and the creation of a performance involving adult refugees, asylum seekers, as well as Italian citizens in Italy, and the project engaging circus students, so not professional, but advanced circus students and young people with disabilities in Palestine. So different kinds of projects, different kinds of encounters were observed, exactly because we didn't want to give a definite idea of what an encounter or an intercultural encounter is at the beginning of the project, but we wanted to maybe at the end have a clearer idea of what an encounter or an intercultural encounter through a circus could be. Of course, because of COVID, we had to adjust not only our projects, our circus projects, but also our research projects. So we used all the devices, techniques, and methods that we all know very well now. But this slide is just to show you how we analyze the data. So each field researcher really did some observations, took some notes, did some interviews, and then we had a lot of text and images because they were also taking pictures, doing videos. And so in order to analyze all this diverse data we had, we found codes and common themes and tried to make connections between the different contexts and the different types of data. When we started to think about the handbook and how to translate all of this data and analysis into a document, of course, we found out that it was not an easy task, because we realized that it was not really easy or possible to translate something like the journey we had into a linear process, a linear something with a beginning and an end, like a clear direction. It felt more like a dance, going all over the place and exploring space in different directions than, say, a march from point A to point B. So how to do this with a written text and a written form, how to translate this into something written. This was the first question. And also how to give the idea of the need of an ongoing process, something that you need to constantly be reflecting or constantly keep in your mind. And then the second point we clearly had in mind was that we needed a holistic approach, meaning that the organization at every level needs to engage with this process of facilitating, supporting encounters. So it's not just the circus class, but also the direction, the administration, the managing of an organization, the partners, the way you work with the community. So we did divide, of course, the handbook into chapters. But the idea was that every chapter, like, it is possible, and I'm going to show you the handbook so you have an idea of how it was designed, to move from one chapter to the following, and go back and forward from the different sections of the handbook. So the first chapter we named it The Boat, because we thought it was the idea of a journey was a relevant one. It really represented what we had in mind. So the first chapter is the boat, because it's what we are made of. So our values, but then also our stories, our personal stories, our education, our backgrounds, our culture, our individual attributes, gender, ethnicity, all the things that make us the unique individuals that we are, and the unique group that we start our journey with. The other chapters are preparing the space, living the space, preparing the space, entering the space, living the space, and exiting the space. We thought of the workshop and of the encounter as a specific space and time. That's why we call it space. It's the circus space. So how do we, first of all, how do we prepare the circus encounter so that it takes into account the specific context where the encounter takes place? How do we prepare ourselves to enter? So it is not just about the context we create, but also the preparing ourselves, having an inner attitude to be prepared for the, not to be prepared, so be open to the unexpected, be open to surprises, because that is what encounters always lead to, surprising outcomes. And then managing the space itself, so that is more related to the circus techniques, the specific circus techniques we use, games, the activities, the circus disciplines. And then how do we leave the space and exit the space and reflect on what we've done and go back to prepare the space, so that every time it becomes more accessible, more inclusive. And again, not just in terms of circus space, in terms of the gym or the circus tent, but meaning a broader space that involves the community, the neighborhood where we work, or the town where we work, the partners we work with. So yeah, each of the chapters include a story based on the field research, so a story collected on the field, some questions to reflect. Rather than answers, we provide many questions in the handbook, and then some tools and activities, suggestion of tools and activities that of course need to be adapted to different contexts. I would like to maybe show you the way the handbook looks. I think it's the first time we show it publicly. So exciting to to be able to show this to you. Okay, again, this is the idea of the journey. So traveling from one island to the next one, back and forward, and then each chapter has some tools, as I was saying, some space for reflection, a short introduction where it says all the things that were included. Of course, they're quite diverse because of we tried also to reflect the diversity of the context we have, and also to always relate to these different circus projects, so to include many of the stories we collected from the field. And so to leave space for the reader to think about how to apply these stories and these tools to their own context, rather than providing fixed recipes or solutions. And I think I'll stop share my screen, and just if I can conclude, giving some sharing. Am I on time, Will? Yeah. Just sharing some reflections I learned, or some maybe inputs I kept after this project, is that we are always working. The encounter is not just, it is always intercultural, because we all have different cultures, different backgrounds. And especially in circus, where we're used to working with other people, we're always working and reflecting on how to encounter others, and how to make that encounter more interesting, but also how to make it grow, how to make it better. So what I learned is that the project started from the idea of looking at other people encountering among themselves, but I think the process brought a lot of interesting reflections on actually how we encounter each other at all levels and all the time. So within the team that was in charge for the research, within among the researchers, with the partners, with the funders. So all of this could be called encounters, and it is always the most precious thing that we can learn is how to communicate better, and how to be open to the unexpected, while keeping on reflecting, while positioning ourselves all the time, but always being open to and able to listen to each other. So I think these themes are key at all levels of the encounter, not just among circus students, but at the level of management, of organization, of trainers, and so on. So thank you.
Thank you, Ilaria. Yeah, it's been It's been a really fascinating project to work on, to participate on, and thanks for sharing all that with us. We'll come back at the end and have a bit further discussion on some of the subjects that you touched on, and see if we have any further reflections or things to clarify. But to keep the energy rolling, I'd like to move on to our second panelist, Serena from the Clowns Without Borders. Would you like to carry on?
Yes, I'm really sorry about the sounds of works are really hard. I hope that they will be clement. But so I'll begin. So we are Clown Without Borders. Clown Without Borders was born in 1993 in Spain, from an idea of a clown, Tortel Poltrona, who had the idea to offer humor as a means of psychological support for communities which suffered traumas. Little by little, a lot of chapters grew up all over the world. And today we are 15 chapters all around the world. And in 2012, we create Clown Without Borders International, with a network of all the Clown Without Borders chapters, which facilitate communication and cooperation between chapters, and protect and support the identity and the quality of Clown Without Borders work. In Belgium, the chapter exists since 2001, and we have a lot of activities in Belgium and abroad. That's for the little story of Clown Without Borders. And so our mission, our aim is to use circus and clown and theater and all the art of live show, actually, to transform fear into hope through laugh and play. We trust in the possibility to provide psychologically relief and bring back joy and hope to people which suffer traumas, creating a safe space free of pain and prejudice. Also, one of our principal aim is to facilitate integration between different cultures, in particular with our activities in Belgium between local people and migrants. So we work for create meetings and exchange between individuals using artistic language. So today I'd like to speak why I think that it's important to use artistic language and art, and in general, and in particularly circus and clowns tools. We are all clown artists, professional clown artists, who decide to use our art to share something with people. Clowns are a really special human being. At the same time, are a universal human being. They have the capacity to show the most intimate and fragile part of the human being. That part is free from cultural conditioning, and so everybody can recognize in there. So for us, it's really important to work on what we call the universal clown. So a clown who doesn't need words or language, but we use body expression to communicate and create new kind of human relationship. It was really nice what Ilaria tell before. It's that we encounter each other in all level, and it's something I think it's really important to put focus in this kind of encounter, in this kind of meeting between people, and not between people coming from different cultures, between being, I mean, and clown for me and for us really arrived to destroy differences, and so destroy prejudice. And yes. So universal clown, so universal themes without cultural references. For example, we use themes of football, or plastic bags, or family of need of a house, something where really everybody can recognize himself. And we are conscious about the risk that when we are artists coming from a culture, we can we could communicate something that is not in our aim to communicate. And I'm not sure that my English is super right about this question, but the risk is that we communicate something that we don't want to communicate. So it's really hard to come in this level of universal poetic and sensibility. I want also to share with you a phrase, a sentence, that it's if you want to improve the world, start by making people feel safe. This is something really important in our practice, is to create safe spaces where people can express themselves without judgment and without fear, and using relationship as agent of change. Because we are convinced that for solve traumas, we need responsive relationship, and everybody has lived traumas in their life, but we work with people that are particularly particularly suffered of traumas. Yes. I try to. Do you have question about that, or I continue, because it's.
I can jump in with a quick question, but just kind of on this element that you're talking about with maybe misinterpretation or this idea of this universal clown, or that a clown from one place might not be funny in another place based on cultural differences. Is that something that you've struggled with or found difficult with this idea of Clowns Without Borders International and working in different cultures?
I mean, it can be something really funny and really useful for people, for artists, and also at the same time something really risky, because we are not always conscious about what can art someone else. There are cultures that are particularly sensitive to. I make a really sample example, but. For example, in India, the elephant is quite a holy animal, and so to make too many jokes with elephant can be for some people, not for everybody, but can be a little bit risky. Yes, and also it's about the body of the woman. So how much can I have to cover my body for not be offensive to some in some cultures. I think we are really playing between the pushing some limits and be respectful and not and how much clown can permit himself to go over the limits, to play with, and where it's too much. This is really a question who is, for me, linked with an intercultural approach. So how can I be conscious that I meet another culture and this other culture has other values that is not better or worse, but simply different. And we have to meet at the middle somewhere. And clown, it's really a free human being, which can be open to unexpected, as Ilaria was saying. So catch the difference, catch the moment of what the situation offer you. Take the accident, because clown loves accident, actually. So all difficult or all accident can be on also all difficult situation which people are living could become treasure for clowns. So I see a destroyed house. Wow, how can I build once more? And how can I build a castle with my fantasy, with my tools, with only some things that can be, we can create magic with that, and also create a relaxed ambient. I think I'm finished, but I'm open to question.
Well, Serena, listen, maybe we'll come back to some questions at the end.
Absolutely.
And we'll go now to Diana from Uppsala Circus, who's going to present. Well, listen, thank you so much, Serena. That's really fascinating and it's wonderful work. And I've been myself on the mission to Cyprus last year, as I think I said at the beginning, and it was really an incredible experience to share clowning in a new cultural context, and to be part of an enlightening and a therapeutic art form that helped people in difficult situations to have a sense of joy and imagination and learning of art. So more on that later. But Diana, if you'd like to carry on.
Yes, thank you very much. It's very interesting how a lot of what Ilaria and Serena has already told about circus and clowns actually reflects the idea and values of Uppsala Circus. And what is also very interesting is that today, presenting not only our experience with working with migrants and refugees, but also that today we are ourselves in the position of migrants when we are moving to another country and moving our circus also to another country. And I'm very glad and happy to share my thoughts and the ideas and history of Uppsala Circus to you. So just a second, I will start with the presentation. Yeah, I hope that you can see. So actually what is a little bit funny, if you can say, is that the whole idea of Uppsala Circus was actually created thanks to the migration and thanks to one of the migrants from Germany. One of the co-founders of the Uppsala Circus is German professional who met Larissa, another co-founder in St. Petersburg in Russia, and that's how the idea of Uppsala Circus appeared. And since the beginning, since 2000s, we are always saying that we are circus open to life. So it's a bit phrase that can be a little bit harder to understand, but what it means to us is that we are a safe space, welcome to everyone and anyone, regardless of gender, nationality, religion, physical abilities, mental abilities. So the main criteria is the idea to make, the desire to make circus together with us. And since 2000, we have been implementing different projects, and also projects that specifically or not specifically works with migrants and refugees, and especially children and teenagers who have migration background. So there is a little bit timeline of different projects in different years. So initially the project for teenagers and children from at-risk groups, so-called difficult teenagers or uncomfortable, inconvenient teenagers. And more or less throughout the years, more and more children and teenagers from migrant families has also joined the program. And I will a little bit later tell a story of one of the artists of Uppsala Circus artists, who is an example of how circus can actually help children with migration, teenagers with migration, to overcome the issues and challenges of adapting to this new environment. And then in 2018, we have launched this pilot art residence when we moved to a small city in Germany, city called Zeitz. It's like a city a little bit frozen in time. So it's an eastern part of Germany. It's a very beautiful city, but after the wall in Berlin was broken and the Germany was united, it became a little bit abandoned. So even now it's a little bit like frozen in time, in like 30, 40 years ago. And a lot of refugee families after the Syrian conflict, after Afghanistan conflict, war conflicts and crisis, have moved to Germany and have moved to Zeit. So in 2008, we launched this pilot project that we continued then in 2019. In 2020, it was an online format because of the COVID. And then we are facing 2022, when after February 24th, after the war in Ukraine has started, we understand that we need to speed up a little bit this process of opening our European headquarters, and part of the team has also migrated to Germany. So I can talk today from both sides, from the side of projects for migrants and refugees, and also from the side how it is when a circus migrates. How do we feel ourselves in the situation? What challenges we are also facing as migrants, especially as migrants from when we are working with Ukrainian children, families, when we come from Russia. So it was also a very interesting and inspiring experience, you can say also. So, but it has all began with a project that we are calling Circus for Rebels. So rebels as those, as you can say, who are not very convenient to the society, especially teenagers, very different groups of teenagers. We have started with street children in 2000s in St. Petersburg. After one more economical crisis, it was a huge problem for the city, for the country, the whole. A lot of children and teenagers were on the street, homeless, without families. So circus was an instrument how you can catch them, if you can say, how you can attract them to some other environment, to a more safe environment, give them instruments to direct their energy. And as Russia for the last, I think, 10 years was one of the top 5 countries who received migrants, a lot of labor migrants came to big cities of Russian Federation, but there is no state system of adaptation, of integration, of helping children and teenagers from migrants or refugees families to adapt better to the new environment. There is a whole different problem and aspect of issues, how especially children and teenagers who don't know the language, who has a lot of issues, how to join school, how to make new friends, how to communicate. There is a huge issue of xenophobia, also because of the differences. So more and more children, I think every year, children from different countries also join circus. And it's very interesting to see the transformation, because as Irina was saying, it is a very safe space for us. So one of our values, I think main values, is that we are open to everyone. We are very open to communication, and that there are no borders. So anyone who wants to join, they can join and express themselves. So that's why more and more children and teenagers join us. I have a very personal experience. So my first encounter with Uppsala Circus, it was 3 years ago when I was working back in another NGO, humanitarian, and I have brought a girl, young girl from Yemen. She's from the refugee family, and I have brought her to circus because it was the only possibility in the city for her for some activities where there were no requirements for payment, for language, for some other. And throughout the 3 years, I can see her development, her growth. And we are always telling the story of Sarvar, because I think Sarvar is the greatest example how circus can help in the situation of migration, because Sarvar came to Uppsala Circus quite by accident. It was the idea of our art director to have this some kind of joint meeting, because children from Uppsala Circus who have been already there for several years started asking a lot of questions about migrants, that they come a lot of migrants come to Russia, they're stealing our jobs, they commit a lot of crimes, you know, all these usual stereotypes about migrants. And Larissa said, okay, let's have a dialogue. So circus is about dialogue and communication. And we have invited friends. There is a partner organization in St. Petersburg who specializes in helping children and teenagers from migrant families to learn Russian, to get into school. So we invited them and we had this joint workshop. And Sarvar immediately fell in love with circus. He didn't speak Russian back then. It was, I think, 5 years ago. Yes, 5 years ago. He's right now with circus for 5 years. And during these 5 years, he has become a professional artist. So he joined Uppsala Circus programs for teenagers. He has learned language, Russian language with the circus. He has made a lot of friends. He boosted his self-confidence, because for us, the main idea of the Circus for Rebels that teenagers, these difficult teenagers, they can feel themselves as school kids who learn something, who know something that no other children or their peers know. So, and Sarvar has started participating in our performances, shows, and next year he's going to be 18. And right now we are already looking for some professional circus schools for him where he can continue, because he's the real circus artist. He's insanely talented. So he has a huge fan base in St. Petersburg. Every show where he participates, there is a huge fan, girls, and boys who are meeting him, asking for autographs. So you can imagine what it does to a kid who several years ago was, you can say, unpopular, who didn't speak language, who was considered by society as some kind of like third country person, if you can say, but now he has his own fan base. So, and he knows some stuff and he has a bright future ahead of him. So I think the story of Sarvar is the story of what circus can actually, how it can help to open potential, to develop creative potential of children and teenagers. And then, as I said, in 2018, we have launched initially as a pilot project, but a little bit later it became, and the idea that it will be an annual activity, we have called it also Rebels for Peace. So it is already 2018. So there is already a war conflict on the territory of Ukraine. There is already, of course, ongoing conflict in Syria, in Afghanistan. And this idea of war, you can say, was again more and more popular, especially in Russian society. And children and teenagers, they are very sensitive to what is going on in society, even if they're not speaking it, they're thinking. So it was very important also to talk honestly with them about what war is really about, that it's not a movie, that it's not something fun as it was sometimes present in the society, and especially now. So this came up with the idea of organizing this art residence in city sites. It's a very small city in Germany. No one in Germany knows what it is. It's very funny to look to the reaction of German people when you say that we're inside. Like, what is sites? So, and there are a lot of refugee families and migrants families. And in 2018, it was a pilot project when we came for 3 weeks. And during 3 weeks, we have united teenagers and their families from Afghanistan, Syria, Russia, Germany, Somalia, I think also. And for 2 weeks, there was a creative collaboration. They were creating performances, some interventions, and it was very interesting to see also the development and also to see how refugees and their families were also building up dialogue with the receiving society, because before that, there is always an element of isolation. So the families from different countries come, and it's very difficult, especially in small cities, to create this connection with receiving societies. In 2019, we have repeated this experience, and the result was the show that is called, it's called documentary, you can say circus performance, because it unites different genres. It is called Tochka or Dot in English. And it has been shown in different festivals. So, but unfortunately in 2020, because of the COVID, we were forced, you can say, to make it an online format. So it was a format of isolation. So yes, the main idea is that back then already was very important to have this honest dialogue with children and teenagers about peace and war, and try to find answers whether we can somehow influence this world that we live in. And then we are facing 2022, and we are facing February 24th, when the war in Ukraine started. And within our team, we understand that in this situation, the independent culture, the independent cultural, social, and educational projects, it is not clear how well they can continue in Russia. And then also on the other hand, we face this responsibility to somehow make something good for the families from Ukraine, to help somehow. And in March, we make a decision to partially relocate our team to Germany, to again, the small city sites. And in April, part of our team, 4 trainers, 1 art director, me as a manager and fundraiser, we are arriving inside. And of course, we don't understand how we can start this dialogue with Ukrainian families, how we can start talking to them and say, okay, we want to make circus together with you, and we are from Russia, we are from the country that actually has forced you to come here. And of course, we were very worried that very understandably, we will not be met very well, but surprisingly, somehow, it wasn't from the very first step an amazing dialogue. In May, we have started an open master classes in one of the city parks. And then in June, we have found a temporary space for training. And we have started creating this very first performance. We have called it Yarns. And the children, they were writing a fairy tale, a real fairy tale. As children, they were playing and creating this story about a ball of yarns, how it has lost itself, found different challenges, difficulties, and in the end found back way to home. And on this story, we have based a performance that we have shown for the very first time in the end of June. And so we continue growing our projects. We continue inviting more and more children to the circus. Our long-term plan is to include not only children from Ukraine, because now we're again in this small Russian-speaking bubble, and we want to include more children from different countries, because Still Sites has a lot of children and teenagers from different countries. And as we are all ourselves in this situation of migration, and we are also facing all the issues and challenges of newcoming migrants, we have been asking ourselves, like, what is circus personally for us? So you can say that circus is a very impractical thing. You cannot pay with it in the shops, you cannot put it in your pocket. but we have answered that circus is also something that help us to maintain and catch balance. It helps us to make mistakes. It's a very important skill, and this ability to make mistakes. So it's also very important for us personally as this new migrants. So it's something that help us to maintain balance. And it is one of the most important things I think right now, to maintain balance. And I think on this note, I would like to end my presentation and then move forward to questions. Yeah.
Great. Thanks so much, Diana. Thank you all so much for all of your different points of view, your stories, your reflections and ideas. It's amazing. And I think as a circus practitioner, this is something that I've definitely kind of seen and witnessed firsthand, but it's amazing to see that, you know, from different contexts from around. I mean, here we have quite a European focus, but that we have really similar stories and similar ideas and a lot of overlaps in the way we see circus and performing arts as a tool for social inclusion, for improving quality of life, all these kind of things. So I guess do any of you have any questions for each other regarding the projects or the elements that you've heard about, or topics for discussion?
I have a question for Ilaria about the handbook. Is it available for trainers, or how can we profit of that?
Yes, so I forgot to say, but it's going to be published on Caravan website very soon. Right, we'll know the exact date better, but yeah, it is available. And also I forgot to say that after that meeting I was mentioning, we had in 2017 in Italy, we also published another booklet called Circus in Discomfort Zones. I think it's interesting to have different kind of resources that raise more or less the same key points and see the evolution. I think it's can be important for the circus community. So yeah, and it is available for, like, the handbook of the Circuses Intercultural Encounter Project is available for both trainers or circus organizations, but also non-circus youth workers or all interested people. So yeah.
Yeah, so that book will be, the guidebook will be published within the month. We're just in the process of doing the final read-throughs and changes, and so we'll print a limited number of copies, but also have it available online on the Caravan website and on all the websites of all of the participating organizations, and it will also be shared through the Circus Talk page, so there will be plenty of opportunities for you to find and use it. Yes, and as Ilaria said, it can be used in all elements of the organization, from the trainers to the pupils to the organization and organizers themselves, in terms of how we approach these intercultural dialogues. And actually on that topic of tools and resources, I think Clowns Without Borders also have quite a few tool kits or guides on how to use clowning in this context as well.
Yes, yeah. We actually, the Swedish chapter created the first handbook some years ago, and we work linked with the mission in Cyprus. We worked to a new version, two different versions actually, linked to focused about work on non-violence and the circus training, and a lot of exercises and activities to work about the gestion of the conflicts and the non-violent responses.
Great. Okay, and those are available on your websites as well?
Not yet for the moment, but we can share it with the drive, so you can write to to our address, web address, and mail address. Thanks. Sorry, and that is info.cmsf at gmail.com. And I can share all the material with you. And also we just published, this is public actually, on YouTube. We just finished a project which called Sounds Without Borders, which is a compilation of songs of all different chapters. And a lot of songs can use also in the activities. And yeah, and it's also only for a year because it's super nice.
Great, thank you. I guess I wanted to open a bit of a discussion about this idea of communication and dialogue, and I think it's something that's definitely kind of been a theme throughout these presentations. And an idea of mine that is that that this idea of language barriers or cultural differences can often play an important role in the barriers of integration and inclusion within new societies, especially for newly arrived migrants or refugees. And I wonder if you can answer what role circus plays in particular, but also other art forms like music or theatre in terms of diminishing those barriers for vulnerable groups such as refugees or migrants. Yeah, Ilaria, do you want to go first, and then maybe we'll come to Diana?
Yeah. Just what Serena was saying before came to my mind when you asked this question, Will, about how clowns love accidents and challenges and difficulties, and they turn them into creative raw material to build something amazing, to build a show, to build a new game, a new way of interacting. And I think that is what circus, as being mainly a non-verbal language, or at least a world where non-verbal communication works a lot, because it's a terrain where the values and the priority shift towards an entirely different scale. So what counts more, it can be how good you are at playing with balls, how strong you are, or how creative you are, how funny you are, how so instead of being like how tall, what skin color you have, where you come from, what your clothes are. So it really shifts the way we look at the world, and it also provides different ways to look at all these accidents that happen in life. So misunderstandings, conflicts. Of course, you need to look at them, face them, and go through them, but then you can also transform them using circus, using art, into something which is not just nice, but really interesting. It's really like juicy. So I don't know if that kind of answers the question.
Yeah, in a way, that was I was going to say, and I totally agree with Ilaria, that circus is actually doesn't need verbal language. So it doesn't need sometimes for parties involved to understand what you are saying. And it is also something about sharing experience and sharing your skills. And I think as a juggler, Will, you understand that it is a great icebreaker. So when you show a person that you can juggle with 3 balls or 5 or more, it constantly catches the interest, and it inspires to teach, to learn, and to get involved. So I think that was great, that circus and contemporary circus specifically, it always inspires to teach something and to find out something new, despite the differences.
Thank you. Yeah, I think, Serena, do you have anything to add, or?
Only a little, yeah, I completely agree with all you said. And for me, it's really interesting when I teach acrobacy, because their bodies need to communicate. Au-delà, sorry, Will, au-delà, how we do it?
That's one of Buzz Lightyear's phrases, isn't it? More than that, or
Yeah.
above and beyond.
Beyond the intellectual comprehension, no? If I have to do a balance between two bodies, I have to listen to the other body, and it's my body which listen the other body, not my mind which communicate to the other mind. So this is, for me, it's what I observe, that children and teenagers really switch in another different way to perceive the world during the training of circus, which is really wonderful and really super useful.
Yeah, thank you. And I think that whole general idea of non-verbal communication, destroying the barrier of language, is really fascinating. And maybe also Serena ties in strongly to clowning as well, in the sense that that's often a physical comedy as well, right? Where the jokes or the comedy doesn't come from the language of telling a joke, but more of telling a story through body language. So yeah, that's really fascinating. And I think also this idea of transformation is really interesting as well, and this idea of going from a trauma or a negative point, and transforming that through creativity and development and work, either whether in a technical discipline in circus, or through physical work with somebody else in an acrobatic context, can facilitate development and transformation from one setting to another. I wonder if that's something that you've experienced in either in your participants, in workshops, or even during shows. Maybe not so much. Yeah, go for it, Diana.
Yeah, I think, yes, definitely transformation. And I think if I'm talking about the experience of, for example, here, from children, teenagers, from there is a way for them to express their feelings. If it could be sound like very simplific maybe, but in circus, in their movements, through music, through activities, they also express what they have been through. And you can see how, when we started initially in May, in June, how they became more and more open, and also in their movements, in their expressions. So I think that is also a point to the question that you have posted.
Yes, for us also it's really interesting. I didn't talk about, but we had a project which called Caravan des Rêves, which is a 5 days workshop in refugee centers. And it's really interesting to see the transformation of children or teenagers, it depends from the group, during these 5 days, because the workshop happens in the center, in their house actually. So there are a lot of relationship between them, which are established before our arrival. And during that week, sometimes the relationship transform and change, and they can see each other in a different way. And this is really yeah, it's really interesting how they can discover the others, and people with them, they live all days, but in a climate of tension sometimes, and proximity, not choice. So it's, yeah, they can transform the relationship that exists, and it's really super interesting.
And that transformation happens through collaboration and communication and creation together.
Yes, definitely. I think because of collaboration, creation together happens transformation. And also I wanted to add to Serena that it's interesting to observe how the communication within the group or between themselves also changes, how they start seeing each other differently because they see new possibilities, they maybe see new sides of each other or discover within themselves new sides of themselves. So it's also very interesting.
Yeah, Ilaria.
I was thinking, I couldn't help but thinking about my own transformation, which is something I can be more in a way sure about. I mean, I've been observing a lot of changes in the people I work with, kids or adults, or, but having experienced circus and arts on myself, and I think that is important also because of what I was saying before. I think, of course, we all know that circus is this kind of magic tool that transforms situations and can really help to move and turn things upside down. But we also need to be aware of our own position, of what we represent, of what we bring with ourselves, be aware of history, of how politics work. So, I mean, always keeping an eye on what our transformation, what we are bringing to the encounter, how are we listening, how are we communicating, I think is really important. That's why I was putting the focus on myself, and when you ask that question, I asked myself the question, okay, but how did circus transform myself? And I can think of so many situations where it really helped me to find different ways to communicate with people when I didn't know the language, or when I wasn't really aware of a context, I was new in a context. So, and it provides tools, but also challenges. Like it's, I don't know, it's always that balance between transformation and changing, and looking outside, but then looking at yourself as well. I don't know if I made a clear point, but yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a really important element that maybe we didn't touch on as much, is that self-reflection as well that comes into the space when we're talking about intercultural dialogue and understanding where you've come, what your prejudices might be, where your role is, and how that impacts and influences the way you might deliver a circus workshop or perform in a show even. You know, where you come from and what you look like can have a direct impact from the beginning on how you received. I think maybe Diana, like you were saying, when you arrived and were looking to work with Ukrainian refugees, you know, how they're going to perceive you before they know anything about you, and the fear that might be there. But then, I mean, I think you said that it actually went really well. Maybe you want to elaborate on that and talk about your experience through that?
Yes, of course, it really went well. And of course, the fear from our side was very, very grounded, based. There were a lot of bases, of course, and it is a lot of discussion about, you know, this issue of collective guilt or not. I'm not going to go into this right now, but of course there is a certain background, there is a certain base that you start this dialogue with. So, and it could go both ways. It could go very well, or it could go very bad. And the only thing that we could do is to be open and to be honest. So there's two main criteria that we have put ourselves, that we will be very open and very honest with the families about where we come from, about our position, and what is our goal, what we are doing here. And later, I think only last month, during there was some event, and I was talking with the parents, and they were saying their side of the story, that initially when they heard that there's going to be circus and open master classes, they were very glad because there will be some kind of activity for the children. And then they find out that we are from St. Petersburg. And they said that we stopped, and they had this discussion. They researched us, what are we about? What is our mission? What is our values? What have we posted on our social media? What have we said about the war and the situation? So it is also very important to stay true to the values and mission throughout our whole history. So yes, and in the end, we are very, there are still issues arising sometimes. I know that, you know, very recently there was an issue when in school, one of the teachers, he was making this discussion about the dialogue between people from Russia and people from Ukraine, and was it possible or not possible. So, but we were open and we were honest, and I think that's what helped us to start this dialogue. And then again, circus came into action, and this universal language and instrument. Somehow it all became possible, and we are right now working very well. And it's very interesting to see the differences between the project in St. Petersburg with children and teenagers and communication with parents, and also here you can see the differences and different approaches to this communication with us, with trainers, with our director. So yeah. And I also maybe a few times wanted to reflect a little bit about my transformation, because my job, I'm an administrative personnel, so I do not perform or show, but it's very interesting. I've been with the circus for almost 2 years to see the transformation. Circus teaches you that it's okay to make mistakes. I think this is one of the very basic skill, but it is very hard to learn in your adult life, especially for perfectionists. But I think what circus has taught me is to make mistakes, and it's okay to make mistakes, because through mistakes you learn, and it is also very important. So this personal transformation and how circus transforms you from within, even if you're not an artist or performer.
Thanks, Diana. And actually, that kind of brings me on to a kind of another topic that I want to touch on in a bit more depth, which is this idea of safe spaces, where this acceptance of failure and where we allow people to make mistakes kind of plays a key role in creating a safe space. But maybe just to elaborate on that, it could be nice to learn a bit about, I mean, I know that this played a role as well in the creation of the guidebook for CIE, for Circus as an Intercultural Encounter, in terms of preparing the space and living in the space, and how we can do that in a way that does make the space safe and gives people the freedom to express themselves, to learn, to make mistakes, to integrate. I don't know if anybody has any ideas or key elements in what's involved in creating a safe space and how we do that in circus.
Just maybe a quick thing is that what we found and what really we insisted upon in the guidebook and in the project is that you don't really create a safe space. I mean, not that you create it and then it's created and it's there, but you constantly, again, in a dialogue, in a self reflection, in a process which requires self reflection, in communication with your colleagues, with all the people involved. You recreate constantly the idea of safety, because it changes. Something that is safe and feels safe for one person one day might not feel safe for another person on the same day, or tomorrow you might feel different about what safety is. So it's something that needs constant negotiation and renegotiation. And it is important to keep in mind that, again, where the awareness about your own position, your privilege, power is important, is that what feels safe for you might not feel safe for somebody else, because of their mood in that moment, or because of what happened during the day, because of their story, because of their background. So it's kind of a utopia. Not for this is less important. It's still very important to look for safety, but it is something that needs to be negotiated, renegotiated all the time, and also that needs to be a space is safe, not just because it is not so safe when I, as a trainer or as a leader, create the conditions for safety, but when it becomes a shared responsibility. So when everybody is really trying to make that space safe for themselves and for the others. Sorry, using my hands a lot as a real Italian.
Yes, I also wanted to add that safe space is not about, this creating, but it's all about maintaining this safe place, and also about how you deal and how you handle the situation when so-called rules of the space are violated. So it is also, I think, what makes a space safe. So again, we're returning to the question or situation when you make mistakes. So when a person makes mistakes that somehow violates this safe place, it's also important how you deal with it, how you handle, how you communicate, how you resolve the issue. So I think this is what makes a circus, or regardless where it is, in a town, in another location, how it makes place to be safe and to be yourself within.
Yeah, I agree with all of you. Really another concrete example, but when during our workshop, we begin always with discuss of the rules with children, with participants. So we ask to everybody to sign a chart that we discuss together for create rules, and everybody know the rules and agree normally with rules. But after we are talking with children, so it's always particular. But yes, for me, Ilaria say something that for me it's really important also, how the safe space can be linked to our idea to be conscious of our privileges. No, we really try to have a diversity policy that we are not the savers that arrived and with the solution, actually, no, with our codes and our solutions that are the solution. No, we are people like the people that we gonna meet, and we have some skills because we learn that skills, and we can pass that skills, and we can teach each other from the others. So also this difference of this intercultural approach to I have my codes, my cultural codes. I arrive and I share my cultural codes with another culture. I have the feeling that it has to be like this in your project with Ukrainian people. How can we create a space where everybody can feel comfortable with his background? And it's quite difficult actually, and it's shocking also. Because for example, when I was in Afghanistan, I need to be covered during 1 month, and it was really questioning for me, Occidental woman, feminist, and how can I deal with the difference? How can I respect myself and to respect the other culture, to feel safe, to feel comfortable, and make feel comfortable the others.
Thanks, Serena. Thanks, everyone. Okay, well, we just have a couple of minutes left before we need to wrap it up. I wonder, I guess my final thought is, obviously we've talked about a lot of things that we do really well in the circus, and a lot of elements about circus practice and performance arts can benefit situations of immigration and trauma. But I wonder if you think there are any elements in which we can improve, whether that's collaboration with other entities that work within this field, or practices that we need to also focus on in the future in order to better the way we work as circus as a tool for integration for migrants and refugees. If there are any thoughts that you have on ways that we can improve in the future. So personally, from my Caravan perspective, will I allow you guys to take a moment to reflect and think about this challenging final question that comes into one of our other projects, where we're currently looking at diversifying the affiliate organizations that we work with in order to benefit from other competencies. So obviously we have a view that's quite, I wouldn't say narrow, but it's focused on circus arts and circus education. And maybe we're missing some competencies and skills that social organizations that work particularly with, say, the elderly, or with social integration of refugees, that actually maybe we could have more collaboration with outside organizations, I think, at least from Caravan's perspective, could improve the holistic approach that I think was mentioned in one of your presentations as well, in taking a, not a back seat, but a more global vision of how our art forms can be used in a positive way.
Yes, and maybe just a more general idea. I'm thinking about the Italian context, or my context. This general idea that we, in the circus, because we love so much what we do, sometimes we miss a bit of a critical view on what we do, and we think that there is no inequality, there is no violence, there is no power differences in our community. And I think circus has a very big potential to change the world and make it a better place, but we need to keep also a critical eye, more in general, on what we do, and question all the time what we're doing.
For us, it's really the idea to improve the collaboration with local person when we go in the country with which we work. So really try to don't be the white artist that arrived and create the activity, and after go, but really try to collaborate with local artists and create something which can continue in time and in future. So how to spread the clown the clown art, clowning the world. Yeah.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I think, yes, to ask for expertise in the fields where we as a circus are not very professional or strong, you can say, not to be afraid to ask for an external expertise, and also to ask those who we work with, to ask teenagers and children what they want, what is their opinion. I think it is also very important, not in a way, to be their expert, the only opinion that matters. It is also, I think, very important.
Great. Okay. Thank you all so much for sharing your opinions, your thoughts, your knowledge. It's been really enlightening, and I've actually met all of you before, and this has given me an opportunity to learn even more about all the various projects and things that you do. So thank you. Do you have any final closing remarks that you'd like to make before we finish up?
Clown the world.
No, great. Thank you. It was a great pleasure, and it is also an element when you go outside of your box and you think about the things that you've never thought before. It is very valuable.
Yes, thank you. It's great.
No, thank you all, and thank you Circus Talk for putting this idea together. We're very happy to be featured on their site, and there will be some links to some extra information, some videos from Uppsala Circus and from the Clowns Without Borders on some of their recent projects, and we'll also add some links to some of the guidebooks that have been mentioned as well, so that you can read up more and use some of the information that you've learned today in this discussion in your own organizations. And we encourage you to go out, and if you're not already in the circus scene, go out and find your local circus and engage with it and use it as a tool to make social positive change. Thanks everyone, and see you again soon.
Thank you.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Stop recording.